Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new term of watching videos instead of attending class. This is going to be suboptimal, as you might be aware, but hopefully it will at least we'll be able to learn the BIT2400 content as well as possible. So this class is BIT2400, Intermediate Programming. Let me just start off by saying we're going to be picking up where we left off with BIT 1400. So a lot more programming, but now we're going to be dealing with objects, what's called object-oriented design or object-oriented programming. I want to do full screen on this thing. Object-oriented programming is going to be a whole different way of looking at things, but you've already looked at this. In case you didn't know, we looked at object-oriented programming before when we did that Scratch game way back for assignment 1 in BIT 1400, if you took my class last term. For those of you that have not taken my class before, maybe ask around to see how I teach, that sort of thing. Uh, but everyone that's taken my class last term, you pretty much know what to expect from me. Uh, and so if you want to read, I like it as an XKCD article. I find it interesting. I like to point out again that you'll get a lot of people talking about how real programmers do this, how real programmers do that. What we want to do is make sure that you have a solid foundation in programming and not just based off of what people say real programmers do, but actual programming. Okay, so once more with feeling, what are we looking at? Why are we looking at this, perhaps more importantly? Well, it turns out, even if many of you don't want to focus on programming, most of the jobs are there for programming. So one of my suggestions for all my HCI students over the years, human computer interaction, if you don't know what that HCI stands for, um, one of my suggestions has always been, if you have programming experience and you want to do design, go into front end development. Not because you won't get to purely design, but you have a special skill set that if you can program and you can do design, you can do both. That's a rare skill. There's a lot of artists. There's a million and one artists out there, and it doesn't require necessarily programming experience. But it also means because there's a million and one artists out there, and because they don't have other job prospects picking them up along the way, the pay is not as good as for a programmer. So I'm always a big fan of like, do front end development, you do some design naturally, you are part of the design decision, the design process in there, and you get to code. But that's just me, because that's the path I took. Even if you want to do simple things like scripting and just sort of dealing with visual effects, programming is absolutely critical. Even if you want to just test something out, programming is critical. All the artists that I know that do digital art all learn to program. Why? Because it is absolutely critical. Uh, so a lot of the languages you're going to encounter, even if you're not doing C++, just say you're doing Python, you're doing JavaScript, you're doing any number of these other languages, they're going to be object oriented. And so this C++ instead of just C can be extremely useful in that case. And quite frankly, if you need to be, even if you're being the artist, you need to be able to talk to software developers to see how they look at the world. It is an invaluable skill to be able to translate from one domain to another, having been in that position a number of times or having had to deal with people that had to do the translation from one domain to another. Being able to talk like a software engineer, or at least understand what they're talking about when they talk about uh, the complexity of an algorithm or how difficult something would be is critical, or how it scales is critical. Uh, and quite frankly, algorithmic thinking comes in everywhere in your life, but also what you do for your job and how you break down problems. So I think it's extremely useful. So if you don't know how a topic applies, ask. We have a bunch of lectures throughout the term. If you want to ask questions of why you don't think this is useful or why you think something is useful, I want to know these questions. I want to know how I can make it applicable to you guys because I guarantee you there's an application. I'd probably hit most of these applications myself, but it may not be the application you're thinking about. But everything we learn should be practical, should be useful for you in the future. So, what have you heard about this course? I'll hold on for a second. So, and let you think about it. For those of you that took BIT 1400, I'm sure many of you you have certain expectations based off of what we did last term. Uh, Maybe I'm grouchy. Maybe that it's an incredible amount of work. I don't think either. Hopefully, neither of those cases are true. If you have not taken the course with me, you just say you waited out a year from BIT 1400. Uh, this is going to be slightly different. Oh, and if you took my Viz class, you also know essentially how I work. This course, I don't. This is not meant to be a course where I'm going to bash calculus, like my calculus courses way back in the day, where I took a calculus class and then promptly forgot it afterwards. Half the degree program that you're in builds on this class. And so, although you could, you know, cheat or cut corners or do all these sorts of things just to get past the course, just get a C and just get on with your life, it just bites you later. If you get your friend to do the work, it just bites you later. Getting a solid foundation now is critically important. I'm going to see if I have any of the lots of work. Is that what you expect? I would actually argue, yeah, it is a fair amount of work. If you try and cut corners early, it's even more work at the end. It becomes like, how are people supposed to be able to do this? It's impossible. If you try and cram at the end, you can't do it. You cannot cram for this course or BIT 1400. You have to work throughout the term. You have to do the assignments. You have to do the labs. Chris Jocelyn points out, and this is informal, that's why not in the slides, uh, informally points out that the expectation is about 13 hours per course during the term. So, this course for the lectures is 3 hours of lecture, 3 hours if you do the labs, that's 6 hours. You got another 7 hours worth of homework, and this is not reading, this is not memorizing, this is doing. That's a lot of work, but it's absolutely critical that you do that work. And I will give you more than enough work to do to get comfortable with this. Um, I will just say, yeah, I don't think you can just not do the work and just coast. I have had lots of students try that. If you have heard that about this course, that will not be the case for this course. It is a absolute bad. I actually had some student fail recently about that. Uh, it is a bad idea to just try and coast and let the other person do the work. We have group work for the first time. Yeah, you better do it yourself as well. Both of you do the work and then combine, fine. If you divide and conquer, you're really screwing yourself over. Okay. No, I do not. I'm not a sadist. I do not like kicking puppies for fun. I'm not sort of. I don't torment people for fun. I'm not actually trying to hurt you guys. In fact, I'm trying to make it as easy as I possibly can. But I also know what the standard is. And the last thing I want is you guys graduating from this degree program, popping out, and then people being embarrassed with your lack of knowledge about programming. If you get out in industry and you do not know how to do a for loop or what a for loop is or what a variable is or what the difference between an integer and a float or whatever the case is, if you don't know what an object is, if you get out into industry and have a gross misunderstanding about programming, not only will I have not done my job, but I will be embarrassed. So I need to get you up to a certain bar, and I need to sort of push you to get to that bar. That is not meaning I want to make you panic. It doesn't mean I want to torture you. It just means you have to do the work. And when things go wrong, it's okay. If you can't do something, that's fine. You just putting in the work eventually will kick in. Very much like learning a language, learning how to play the piano, learning how to play any sport. You don't learn by watching. You don't watch a piano concerto and go like, "Oh, I know how to play that now." You have to put in the time and the practice. And if you think it's useless, I didn't do my job in that case because you should see why this is going to be useful. Now, you might think, if you are doing uh, interactive media and design, maybe you think it's useless because you're going to be an artist. But quite frankly, no. It's the jobs the jobs in this for your degree program end up being this confluence of programming and art. Same with IRM, you still need to understand large amounts of data and how to process and deal with large amounts of data. If you're doing BMPD, you still need to be able to deal with large amounts of data, and being able to run a script and being able to extract away that information is an absolutely critical skill. Okay, I this is the embarrassment if you get out in industry. If you pop out and you talk like this, that means we failed, right? We need to get you up to a certain standard. And this is from the IT crowd, in case you haven't watched it. Good, good program. Another thing from the IT crowd, though, just let me point out, it's not just can you program. The skills we're trying to teach you here, at least, are supposed to be generalizable so that you can apply to other domains, other areas. Being able to break down a big problem into small little chunks is actually a useful skill in general. And so it's not just about programming, it's about how you process information, how you deal with the world. That's what the university education is supposed to be. It's not, did you do a philosophy degree? It is, did they teach you how to think about the world in a particular way, in a methodical, uh, way with, and clearly communicating your ideas. And that clear communication also applies here in this degree program. So, in case you didn't know, here I am at the bottom for my Queen's 2001 photo. Not the best photo of me. I'm also looking rather rotund. So, in case you don't know who I am, I have a PhD from the University of Victoria, and I got my master's degree at UBC. I was a kids educational game developer for 2 years before I did my master's and my PhD. That's after graduating with my undergraduate degree and moving to Montreal. Uh, I was a front end developer and designer for a computational fluid dynamics company, so they do physics simulations. That's called CD Adapco. It's part of Siemens now, but requiring these massive amounts of data, like extremely complex physics simulations, and being able to set every single possible parameter to make sure that your simulation is being run correctly, and then throwing it at a batch of supercomputers, or a batch like a network of server computers, like so, a, a big server essentially, to process the data and then send back a result. That is actually a lot more convoluted than people want to give it credit for. And then after that, I went to Google in Cambridge, so Boston essentially, uh, to be a front end developer on Newsstand, and then I taught at Northeastern University for 4 years, something like that, 4 and a bit years. So I've been teaching for a little while, but this is only my second year starting at Carleton, meaning that there's still probably going to be some adjustments in terms of difficulty level and how much I'm asking of you guys. So if it seems overwhelming, talk to me. The Newfoundlander thing is only relevant if you're going to tell a Newfie joke, make sure it's a good one. Bad Newfie jokes, just they're not so funny. So make it if you're going to tell a Newfie joke, make sure it's a good one. Okay. So with that being said, why are you listening? If you're still listening, that is. So first of all, it's not listening, and with these videos, I'm terrified here. I think a lot of people are going to put on the video, go off, do something else, maybe start cooking while, having the video on, go for a bike ride while listening to the video playing without looking at the slides, or whatever the case is. It I'm going to have another plea for this later on. It's not just having this wash over you. This is not some passive thing. This is not watching television. It is trying to absorb the information that we're presenting, trying to understand what we're trying to do, and that's part one. Listening is if you're biking and listening to this, you have the listen. There's no way in hell you're getting to the process part. The listening and the process you want to do at the same time when you're doing a lecture. That's why we do live lectures, because videos are crap for this. People don't they get distracted. Uh, if you could do 1 and 2, I'd be very impressed. But 1 and 2 is from the lecture. Steps 3 and 4, that would be, if I have my mouse here. Oh, actually, let's have a digital pen. If steps 3 apply and 4 reflect, those are done outside of class. We could do a little bit of apply, a little bit of reflect in class, but or during these videos. But the vast majority of it is you making sense of your world, you digesting this. So it's you're eating your meal and then you're digesting it afterwards, and the digestion is actually the important part. So it's I'll be you can't really do the apply unless you listen and process information, but then you got to wrap it all up again with a reflection. uh, Oftentimes you need multiple exposures, so you can rewatch the videos, but if you have questions, ask. That's why we have synchronized lectures, because it's not going to come naturally to some people. It'll come naturally to some, not to others. Or it may one topic might you might miss one topic. That's okay. Ask. Uh, and if you don't know, again, if you don't know why you're learning something, ask. My job. That's my job to make sure it's clear as much as I can at least. So, our learning objectives right now, well, we want proper documentation for software development projects. That's my boilerplate. Every single course is how do I clearly communicate to others and document what I'm doing. We're going to be looking at objects, though, and that's what's special about this class. It's a paradigm, it's a way of looking at programming in a very different way. Instead of doing step one, step two, step three, like a series of steps, you instead say, forget that, I'm going to pretend this thing is an object and it knows how to deal with itself. And I will go over it again later, what the heck that actually means when I'm saying that. But I'm saying the button you have on the screen, the button knows how to deal with it being clicked. The button knows how to animate itself. The button knows how it looks. Everything about the button is put with the button. So the object knows about itself. Um, we're going to do very basic object-oriented programming. Uh, and we're going to be building larger software systems using a combination of different classes. So the programs are going to get bigger and bigger compared to before. Hopefully not too big, but they can get pretty big. And it requires practice. So we'll be looking at, we will look a little bit at user interfaces and some very basic design paradigms. So we will look at a model view controller paradigm, for example, later on. And we're going to use some existing libraries, and that was a major part of this course. Can you use other people's libraries in a meaningful way? Can you pick up somebody else's code and use it? So to start off, because every term I teach this class, so first term I taught last fall, uh, everyone said, I don't remember anything from BIT1400. I said, okay, and we did a very extensive review. Last term, I had all my students from the previous term, and the other half of the students were not my previous students, and they said, I don't remember anything from BIT 1400. And my students probably also said the same thing. So we did an extensive review. I will do an extensive review again for you guys, but if it's going too slow, you can either go at double speed or something like that if you think you have it under control. But I want to make sure we have pointers down, for example. You need to know what a struct is. You need to know what a pointer is. You need to know what a dynamic array is. You absolutely have to have those down cold before we move on to the next part. So we will have an introduction. We'll do some advanced pointer stuff, dynamic arrays, for example. Just review. This is just purely a review of 1400. And then we'll start looking at objects and classes. We will start looking at strings finally. If you were pissed off with me in 1400 saying, oh, we're using C strings, not this string class, and why is he not using C in and C out? Why are we using these C strings, these arrays of characters, instead of using strings like everyone else does? We'll finally figure out why we did that. And then we're going to look at what an object is and how they're used. We're going to look at inheritance with polymorphism, with both our topics or concepts associated with object-oriented design, and then we're going to look at how to use libraries and event-driven programming and things along those lines. We're even going to use we're going to look at model view controllers and what's called MFC, Microsoft Foundation classes. So some GUI related stuff, graphic user interface related stuff. All right. For our evaluation, we got 30% for the assignments. There are way fewer assignments than last term. So instead of, I think, 11 assignments we had last time, it's going to be, I think it's 6. But they're every 2 weeks, and they're bigger. And there's a halfway check-in point. So essentially, it's the same as having 11 assignments like we had last time. Uh, we have a bunch of in-class exams, in class, quote unquote. Let's put some quotes around there. Actually, just for people that are do that, it'll be on See You Learn because we have no choice in the matter. But during the exam times, I want to double. Oh, that's also wrong. I got to double. I got to fix that. I didn't see that when I was updating my slides. We're going to put them during class time in about the end of September and about mid to late October after the break. We have a final exam during exam week, and that's worth 30%. So I could make that final exam worth more. I don't want to because then it promotes cheating on one thing over another. But the assignments themselves are not worth that much if you look at it. They're worth a fair bit, but it's not that much. They are there so you pass the exam and so you pass the final exam. I mean, that is 25% and 30%, right? 55% are exams, and well, you can't easily cheat on an exam. I won't put it past you guys to not be able to cheat with an online exam compared to an in-class exam, but I was brutal for in-class exams if you didn't notice, like with the different color exams that we did last time. Uh, we still have quizzes. The quizzes are going to be relatively lightweight. They're just to get you actively engaged and keeping up with the coursework. And then we have labs. The labs are you will be submitting your labs, and that is how you'll be evaluated by you submitting your labs. It's going to be mandatory to submit labs. Okay, we had the same textbook as last time, so we starting out with C++. Now, after this class, you'll know why it has C-ins and C-outs everywhere, and using the string class. We could finally start looking at some of that stuff. And so we want to reuse a textbook for 1400 and 2400. That's why it's such a weird looking textbook in some ways. And there's, by the way, if you don't know how to do something, look it up. You can't steal code verbatim from somebody, but you can look up how to call a particular function. Everybody does. Nobody steals code from other. You don't steal entire chunks of code without knowing what the hell they're doing. That's bad. You should always know what they're trying to do. But you're allowed to figure out how the heck that function actually works. That's what Google's for, right? That's why you have a second monitor. Every programmer I know has two monitors, one for programming, the other one for Google, the other one for figuring out how the hell to call that particular function. And that's how you live as a programmer in industry. So, our assignments. We have 6 assignments. It's actually going to be probably 7, because one of them will be two mini assignments, which will count as one. Okay. For the full size assignments, you'll have 2 weeks to do them, but there's an unmarked halfway deliverable that is not being graded, is not being evaluated at all. If you want to if you want to screw yourself over, great, don't pass it in, fine. I will say you'll be screwing yourself over. And one of the big comments I got last term was, "Oh, thank God you gave me the halfway deliverable." There are no marks on it associated with it, but it keeps people on the straight and narrow. Because if you do it the day beforehand, you will fail. I will promise you that. You will not get it done, or you'll be cheating. Because these are meant to be bigger assignments, and you cannot do it the night beforehand. The halfway deliverable is to keep you on task, to do a chunk of it, get out of the way. Like a coach, right? I know I'm not going to be able to be as good as a coach for you guys, but when I was swimming competitively, I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning to go in to swim in a cold pool every single morning. There's no way in hell I would have done that on my own, right? The halfway deliverables are to motivate you to do the work because I know nobody, myself included, will work that far ahead on it. Very few people work that far ahead on a deadline. I know I don't. And so they are there to keep you on schedule. You have 2 weeks to dispute any given grade, so do not wait to the end of term to say, "Oh well, you graded my exam wrong." I don't care. You got 2 weeks, right? If it's marked, I'm not going to be counting the actual days, but you reach out to your TA. That means you've reached out and therefore you're disputing your mark. Fine. But if you wait like the end of term and then start asking about your assignments that you did earlier in the term, no, too late. It's about 2 weeks. Okay. The assignments are distributed throughout the term to keep you on pace, right? So that you don't try and do everything all at once. And none of this is meant to be a panic inducing. It's just meant for practice. So this is not something to worry about. We can throw out assignments. We can do all sorts of things like this. It's required to get you trying things to feel more comfortable. And if you screw up an assignment, eh, who cares? We have this same absolute hard zero late submission policy. So if it's late, if it's broken, if it doesn't work, if you didn't do the job, if you pass in the original questions and didn't add anything, whatever the case is, you get zero. It's not the job of the TA to figure out what you wrote. And I can be that much of a jerk simply because we're dropping at least one homework. If you're overwhelmed one week, don't pass it in. That's fine. It doesn't count, right? If you screw up one assignment, you're a minute late, you say, or 5 minutes late, or whatever the case is, fine. That's you drop one. That's fine. It's the only way to be purely fair, because unless you have some kind of special accommodation, that's different. But whether you are having a really hard week or whatever the case is, the policy should not be based on who's able to argue their point the best, right? Who cries the most or who yells the most or whatever the case is. It should be fair for everybody in the class. And the only way to do that is to give everyone a freebie, everyone a mulligan. Everyone gets a free, you got zero on the assignment, who cares? Fine. If you got low on the assignment, fine. You'll use that one. That's why we have the throwaway assignment. But they're even then they're not that weighty each assignment. So if you screw up one, not the end of the world. It probably won't even affect your GPA. Not doing the assignments, so I have to tailor between people panicking over this and people not doing anything at all and then expecting to pass without doing any of the assignments. If you don't do the assignments, you will fail the course. Period. If you do the assignments and you screw up one assignment, not going to affect you. Right? It's that if you're doing the work, you're fine. If you're not doing the work, you're screwed because you didn't do the practice that you need to pass the course. If you are using a Mac, by the way, you are in big, well, you make sure that you have this covered as early as possible. We are using Visual Studio 2019, or if there's a 2020, I guess. Any submission that cannot be opened or compiled and executed in that in Visual Studio gets a zero. Now, if it doesn't work, the TA might reach out to you. That's fine. But it does mean there are some graphic user interface programming assignments later on that you need a Windows machine. So either you need a virtual machine or you need to not use a Mac or whatever the case is. But you can't just use blocks or code blocks or whatever it is on the Mac. We have to have one target because the expectation is that everyone has access to a Windows machine. That is the policy for the entire department, not just my class. So all your code, like last term, if you've talked to anyone that has taken my courses before and heard word around the campfire, one of the big things for me is there is a lot of checking on with Moss. It's easy. It's easy to cheat using a computer. It's easy to catch cheating using a computer. Moss lets you do that. It checks to see how hard it would be to convert from this to this, so how hard it was for you to cheat. So if two pieces of code look identical but the variable names are different, cheating. If the two pieces of code look identical but the formatting is different, cheating. It doesn't require anything. If you have a while loop versus a for loop, that's harder. There's a million and one ways. It's like saying an English essay, you change the name of all of your characters in the essay, different. It's a different essay. No, it's not. There's a million and one ways to write an essay. There's a million and one ways to code something. So we are checking for cheating, and I prosecute. I don't check with you. I don't ask you. I submit the case and then find out. So don't give me any reasons why. Please don't give me any. It's a lot of paperwork. No one wants to do it. You don't want to be called into the associate dean's office. So just be careful. Um, and if you have a real exception, really, and I've never had to give one of those, you get up to a 2 week delay for a normal deadline. Normally, I would just might say just we drop one additional assignment, but it has to be a big thing like I don't know, you got into a massive automobile accident and you're in traction, like something huge. Okay, And like last term, for anyone that's not done a course with me before, I normally have a reflection essay. These are not things that these are required. We will not grade your assignments until they get done, but we will grade your assignment. You submit your assignment, you don't pass in a reflection, you don't get any marks for your assignment until you pass in a reflection. The reflections are not what I want you to see, what I want you to say. They are not tell me what lessons you learned. Blah, blah. It's not. It's meant for you. It is you making sense of your experience and then saying like, oh, I that was a dumb move I made, and I wasted 5 hours of time. So let me go through a reflection on mine. Um, One of my times when I was at CD Adapco, not CD Adapco, at Kotoka Interactive, when I was making a video game, I figured out why I now always include curly braces, no matter if they're optional or not. I accidentally added one extra line of code in a for loop, indented correctly, but did not add curly braces. Just little boneheaded human error. And then spent 4 hours trying to debug that damn thing until I finally traced it down with hundreds of thousands of lines of code until I finally traced down that it was this one stupid for loop. And I was looking at this for loop for a while as well. I went past that for loop and said, nope, it's fine. Nope, it's fine. A bunch of times because it was indented correctly. But because I was missing the curly braces, I spent 4 hours tracking down that bug. That's the kind of thing that you can reflect on. Like things that you learn, things that you went, oh my God, I should never do that again. Or, oh my God, I wasted time. Or, oh, that worked really well. Right? Did you hate the assignment? Did you think it was foolish? Whatever the case is. Right? I want your thought process. I want to see that it's not just crank something out. It's what did you learn from it? Other than if you say I cheated, that would be that's going to actually hurt you. But other than that, any honest opinion is perfectly fine by me. So, what was the task? How did you feel about it? How could you have made it better? How did you waste time? How did you screw up? Your experience. Everyone's going to be different. Okay. And by the way, speaking of this whole Moss thing, plagiarism. So, uh, it turns out you're adults. I know, crazy. Uh, Effectively, the only thing you have as a programmer is your integrity. I know that sounds weird, and it sounds like one of those, oh, well, don't do drugs because drugs are bad. Um, Effectively, it is a very big black mark if you are ever caught just stealing code and your company gets in trouble as a result and you get sued. But it also means that other programmers don't have any respect for you if they find out you just are blindly copying code from others. It is absolute garbage. Every single technical interview I had, every single one of them, and I've done a lot of them, is a whiteboard, me programming with a whiteboard with a pen. And if I can't generate the code on the fly in front of other people, I shouldn't be there. If I'm just and it's always new topics, new problems that no one you've never seen before, right? Your job is to get the skills so that you can do that technical interview later. And that's why they do those interviews because they don't want people just copying other people's code or anything like that. It's also illegal. Um, and plagiarism includes copying other people's work, letting other people copy your work, just even letting leaving it available to them, reading it over the phone, right? I've had somebody claim that. Using answers from online resources. I had somebody, I had somebody submit to a tutoring, give me an answer to like a what would you call it, a tutoring board where you post your code question and then someone gives you like here's how you would do that particular problem. Yeah, they were doing that during the exam. I was very upset. um, yeah, that's garbage, right? That's cheating. At no point in time, like, just do the damn work. Come on. Like, it's way harder for you to cheat than it is for you to actually just do the work. I don't understand this at all. But besides your currency, and even if I treat you like an adult, say it's your, your honor is infringed by you cheating. Many people don't care. I'll just say this: we're dropping you most of the time we drop a partial letter grade. The associate dean of engineering been very good with me when we've worked together on things, and he has not gone light on people at all. He's kicked people in the ass hard, And it's like, oh, you cheated on the assignment. Oh, you lost a partial letter grade on your final course. Plus, you got zero on the assignment. So, or you could have just not passed in the assignment and gotten a way better grade. So, just and you're working with a partner. There's even no even need to do this, anyways. So, computers make copying easy. Computer detection is easy using MOS. So don't bother trying it. Just do the work. It doesn't make and later on the next class you're going to be screwed over again because you just cheated to to pass the class and now you can't do the next class. It just kicks the can down the road. It doesn't help you. Okay. So, by the way, find and replace does not equal new code. So if you just change the variable names of everything, Moss catches that. Reports. I get a report on it. I check it out. I go, that's copying and pasting code, and they just found and replaced the variable names, and I report it. I had like 8 different cases of that at least for 1400, and it was even worse for 2400 last term. Okay, so if you need to refer to something, you got a snippet of code and you're not sure, put in a comment, say where you got it from. That's fine. Because if you're putting in a comment saying where you got that snippet of code from, I'm pretty sure you're not just copying and pasting blindly, right? If you're using some external library and you want to use it and you want to know, or you're not sure if, using those 3 lines of code is cheating, put a citation in there. I'm okay with that. If you give me 20 lines of code that's just copying from someone, that's no. But if you're using somebody else's code, put a citation. It doesn't take any effort and you cover your backside. Uh, and oh, by the way, just letting you know, you can have a partner on your assignments. So multiple groups at the same time are an absolute no-no. No two groups should have the same code. You have a partner already. If you two can't do it, then you shouldn't be partners. Or you need to work harder, or you need to ask questions. Right? I absolute no-no to have multi-group cheating. Um, so Speaking of which, yeah, the slides are actually from previous instructors. Many of the foundation of those slides are from Audrey, Ali, and Chris Jocelyn, and probably others along the way, but all mistakes are mine. If there's anything that you see that's wrong, like the dates being wrong, that's me. That's me screwing up. Visual Studio, you have perfectly available to you right now. DreamSparkCarlton.ca, if you don't already have it, get it. Get it as soon as you can. You will need MFC, so if you have a Mac, you will need a virtual machine. I'm more than happy to put up other instructions from other courses, other times, just to make sure you're up to speed. I don't have a Mac myself, so I've never had to go through that process, but my TAs have had that, and they've written up Piazza articles on this. Um, but you have all of this stuff for free for you. You just need to use DreamSpark and use your CUNet account because they need to know you're in an engineering discipline, not just a Carleton student. All right. We're going to have quizzes. The quizzes are going to be weird. Um, so we'll be using Pull Everywhere quizzes like we've done in the past. But in the past, we used to do them in lecture. And so I could figure out if you understood something live. I could wake people up, which was very, very useful. I could make you actively, hopefully actively think about things, why you're doing things, what works. Are you confused? If you fail the quiz, you go, holy crap, I don't understand the topic. So it allows you to solidify your knowledge or figure out if you don't understand something. And oftentimes I have group work when people weren't getting it right. I would say, talk amongst yourselves and figure out what the answer is. We can't do that this term. I can still do the quizzes, but there's no way in hell I'm stopping cheating. Like, I know this. Don't cheat, because effectively, I'm figuring out if you understand something based on you, whether people get it right away. Right? If everyone gets it right, I'm assuming that you understood it. Um, you have about a week to do each of the quizzes. So the point of the quizzes, the reason I left them on, is because I want you to do these some little mini practice exercises. I will enable the quiz sometime around when the lectures should be done or watched, and then I will turn it off about a week after when the lecture should be watched. I may turn them all on to begin with, but I want to have a window of time where you can do the quiz, not based off of you need an internet connection right now, but I want to make sure that you are keeping up with this because the last thing I want, I don't mean to bash the last term's cohort of students. But it was very depressing when I made a slew of YouTube videos for all the rest of the term. They got to the final exam. The day before the final exam, I was checking the count on the number of views I had in some of my videos. And there were videos that had 30 views in a class of 100 students. And if you've watched the video twice, that was 2 views, right? So you could have had people watching it multiple times, and that would have increased the count. They're not unique viewers. That was 33 views. There was a lot of people that were not doing any of the work and hoping to God they just passed the exam at the end. Not that many passed, or a lot of them failed. The Poll Everywhere quizzes are designed, or I'm hoping, will help us keep on the straight and narrow. Not just can my friend help me with the assignment, but while you're watching the videos, also do the quiz just to make sure you're keeping at a particular schedule because you can't cram for this class. All right, so I'm going to open up a quiz. I'm recording this in July, so I'm not doing this right now, obviously. But when September comes around, I'm going to open up a quiz, and I'll have a quiz available for you to look at right now. I'm also going to register all of you. But the only way I can register you is using CU Learn. CU Learn only has your carleton.ca email address. So the only way I can register you is with your carleton.ca email address. If you have not done one of my Polar Everywhere quizzes before, this might be a little confusing for you. You have 2 email addresses. One's a carleton.ca email address, the other one's like a CUNet carleton.ca email address or something like that. Mine's CUNet. I don't have the other email address. They both go to the same location, so you're blissfully unaware that you have 2 email addresses, but you do have 2 email addresses. I found that very confusing myself. You have two. I can only register you using the carleton.ca one. So when you log in and make your account yourself or set everything up yourself, follow the email that you're going to be getting if you don't have an account. And when you try and make your account and set everything up, you have to use your carleton.ca email address, not anything else, not Gmail, nothing else. Only otherwise, there's no way of associating you with CU Learn, what mark you have in CU Learn with these quizzes. Okay. The first quiz will be worth absolutely 0 points because I want you to try it out, see if it works, see if you could actually vote, and see if you get any kind of mark or anything like that. You should even be able to check what your grade was on that quiz after it's done, after it all gets locked down. So we are also using Piazza, and I'll have a link of this on the course not course contract. The course outline will have information about Piazza, and it will also be on CU Learn. Piazza acts very similar to CU Learn's messaging system, except it doesn't suck. CU Learn's messaging system is really clunky and it's really hard to read emails and it's really hard to track things and make sure you didn't miss something. So I've been using Piazza. I have not gotten a lot of pushback on it, but it is yet another technology to learn. But it is a very, very useful piece of technology to learn. You are expected to monitor that. Do not email me personal questions about how to do assignment 1 or how to do assignment 3. If it's your code that you want to show me, that's different. But if it's I don't understand that question, do not email me Piazza Post, because I guarantee you if you don't understand it, another 20 people don't understand it. I need to address everybody, and the fastest, best way of getting information, clarification to everybody. You're expected to monitor it, and you're also expected to, and read it, so that if there's an update, let's say I have a mistake in my assignment, everyone finds out what the mistake is right away, rather than I have to email everybody. Right? You can check it on your own free time versus me clogging up your inbox. Piazza is really good for that and really good for threading and a bunch of other things. So I use Piazza extensively. It has been much better than CU Learn, so please make sure that that's set up and running. Okay, we did a lot of the course logistics. I'm going to do a little bit more of the logistics, and then we're going to move on to reviewing BIT 1400. So I'm going to take a quick pause here and let you guys, stretch, maybe weep uncontrollably. I don't know what you want to do right now, but I don't want to have gigantic videos all the time. So we'll take a quick pause, and then we're going to launch into the next part of the intro lecture. Thanks, everyone.